Hello everybody, I'm Dan, your friendly fishmonger at dansfish.com, where we're on a mission to humanely source, maintain, and transport aquarium fish to our customers. I have in my hands a very special piece of paper. This is a lab report from the Utah Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. And this is a report that proves that I've solved the problem I've been trying to prove for years. So, back in 2019, I found a source for some beautiful red-eyed red albino cauliflower Red-HiFin swordtails. See some footage of them right here. They're stunning, beautiful fish. I was so thrilled to get them. I'd been looking for them for a long time. Finally got some in. They didn't come in the best shape though, but I thought I could save most of them. I worked really hard to do that, and over time, they all died off. What's going on? Don't know. Maybe it's just a bad shipment. So I tried again, improved some things with the supplier. They came in better shape. I thought, aha, we fixed the problem. I started selling them after they went through their quarantine period, and customers started having problems. They would often arrive in bad shape, and often they would waste away on the customers after a couple of weeks. Okay, this isn't good. Try one more time. Tried another batch. Treated with different medications. They looked good. I sent them out. I thought, this is going to do it. Nope, still had problems. One of the customers was a veterinarian, and they were kind enough to send the fish to a laboratory for a workup, and the laboratory found that those fish had an untreatable virus. So basically what that meant was the one source I'd found after looking for a long time had beautiful fish that I could no longer source, because I'm not going to knowingly purchase fish that have a virus that is going to make them so they don't thrive for my customers. So I didn't have these really fancy swordtails for a long time. Fairly recently, I found a new supplier, and I've been testing the water with them. And I've been working with an aquatic veterinarian to screen them and look at them. These are swordtails, there's platies, there's mollies, and there's some very nice guppies. This supplier breeds really nice lines of fish. So we've been working through that to make sure we know how to get them in, make sure we know how to get them healthy before we send them to our customers. The final part of that was this lab report. And I'm thrilled to announce that there were no viruses found in the lab report. I've talked to the veterinarian, and he is comfortable with me saying that it's very, very likely that they don't have that virus because we just haven't found them. You can only say very, very likely because there's always this very small percentage that something was missed, that, you know, the lab missed something. So I want to talk to you about these. There's several varieties, and then I'll talk to you about the care. So one of my favorites is the red-eyed red-HiFin cauliflower Sabertail. So the tails on these are a little different. They don't come to a sharp point. It's a nice, thick, blunt, a blunter sword, I suppose, a saber on the tail. Beautiful fish, though. The same in every other way as a red-eyed red-HiFin cauliflower swordtail, but with a more unique sword, I suppose, or saber. So that's one that's awesome. I like the red wags as well. There's just something about that beautiful, tall cauliflower HiFin that contrasts with the red body that I've always liked. Then, in the same vein, we have the red Tuxedos. Really nice strain, really good looking fish. I think they're high quality. I think they're going to do well for you. And then we have the Red-HiFin cauliflower swordtail that is a nice, brilliant red, just as red as the red-eyed red, except for it has a black eye instead of a red eye, and has a tiny little bit of a tracing on the tail, on the sword of the males, tiny little outline on the margins of black. So that's another neat one. And then there's some strains of pineapple type swordtails. The first is the Veiltail. These are interesting. I'd never seen this one before. The females develop this beautiful flowing Veiltail footage. In fact, all the fins on the females are just extended and flowing. They look like something out of Fantasia. They look like just a super fancy, dressed up for their wedding kind of a fish. In the males that go with them, those don't have the Veiltails, but you can tell that they're the males for that strain because they have less red striping on the body. In fact, pretty much no red striping on the body. So that's a strain that goes with the Veiltails. Those are the proper males for those females. And then we have regular pineapple high-fin swordtails as well. Beautiful, bright color, just like a cheery pineapple swordtail, but with a very tall, very nice dorsal fin on the males and the females as well. I think those are just outstanding. And then something similar is what they call like a white-bodied, red-finned high-fin swordtail, which pretty much looks like a pineapple swordtail, but with more red in the fins and much less pattern to no pattern on the body. So pretty much a plain-colored body for the most part, with the red contrasting. There's several other types as well. One more that we have is the high-fin Berlin swordtail. This is a swordtail with a black body, but on that black, there's iridescent spangles of blue and green, and then the bright colored fins to contrast that. So all these neat strains of swordtails that I'm now confident I can bring in and send to my customers and get to them healthy because I've been cleared by a veterinarian, a certified aquatic veterinarian. So it's taken many months to figure this whole thing out, but I think I've finally done it. I've been working for years to do this, not just with swordtails, but also with guppies and platies and mollies, because it's been very difficult to find livebearers that are hardy. It shouldn't be, but it is. But finally found a breeder that not only do we know how to get you nice, healthy stock, and have been, examined and found virus-free, but also the strains are much more consistent than the livebearers you typically find in the aquarium industry. In platies, there's some very nice ones. There's solid yellow platies, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's just bright yellow and nice high fins on those. And then there's some sunrise platies, which are the yellow, but with some orange as well, mixed in. And a nice high fin as well. There's some yellow tuxedo platies, also high finned. And then there's a few other really nice strains of platies that are of those kind of, really fancy high finned caliber that we have available. So I'm really happy about those. In mollies, we have some of the platinum Lyretail mollies, and we're getting more strains of mollies in. But again, if you just look at them, you can see the consistency. It's obvious that the breeder takes a good amount of time and care working their lines. Are they absolutely perfect? Probably not. They're still industry fish, but they're the highest end livebearer you're going to be able to find in the aquarium industry outside of going to like livebearer shows, IFGA competitions and things like that. I really believe that. I've been around. I've seen a lot of livebearers, and these are the best I've seen out of the industry. And then guppies, lots of strains of guppies. We'll show you a bunch here, and we'll go over their basic care. The names will appear on screen, but I want to talk about care now. So with livebearers, let's keep in mind that in nature, these fish have a large percentage of vegetation in their diet. They eat a lot of detritus, and a lot of what detritus is plant matter that's been broken down, but not completely broken down. So there's still good caloric intake in there. And so they need some veggie content in their diet. You don't want to feed them anything that's too high protein or too high fat too often, or they could develop some issues. That's not to say that you can't feed them high protein foods. You can, but I wouldn't feed them only high protein foods. I'd mix some veggies in there for sure. Now, they'll eat anything. They'll eat pellets, they'll eat flakes, they'll eat frozen foods, they'll eat dried foods, they'll eat live foods. They're not picky fish whatsoever. But just be sure to mix in some veggies. I think that's really important for livebearers. Where a lot of these livebearers come from originally are fairly clean waters, flowing waters off the slopes of mountain ranges in Mexico that flow down to the ocean. These waters flow down the mountain off to the ocean, and on those slopes, the water's moving at a decent clip, and it's nice and it's clean. And that's where a lot of our swordtails and different wild type livebearers come from that our domestic strains were developed from. So keep that in mind. Yes, it's a platy, or yes, it's a swordtail. But in nature, these come from pretty clean water, some nice habitat. Now, that's not always true. There's exceptions for sure, but I think it's important on the husbandry to keep the water parameters stable. I wouldn't worry about perfect, as in trying to adjust the pH and hardness to be perfect, but keep them stable. they're going to have an easier time adjusting to alkaline water, to hard water, than they will to soft acidic water. But I've kept many live bears in soft water many times. It can totally be done. You need to start with really strong stock, and also just keep an eye on them and care for them for the first week or two after they go into soft water. So parameter-wise, they can take normal aquarium parameters within quite a wide range as long as those parameters are stable. And keep in mind, they don't like ammonia, because those mountain slope waters that a lot of them come from are nice, clean waters. Temperature, we keep all of our aquariums at 79 degrees. Anything from the mid-70s to, mid-70s is good. I've kept them up to 82 degrees without any problems, all these fish. So normal aquarium temperatures are usually just fine. And the setup can be as simple or as as involved as you want to make it. Often it's just a bare tank with a sponge filter on one side. And that's fine. Like if you're trying to breed and you want to do that so that you can easily sort and select females when they're ready to give birth and do all that, bare tank, as long as it's got an established filtration system, is just fine. Or you can go with a very nice aquascape tank that's, got all the complex plants and setups and hardscapes and is high tech and all that. That's fine as well. Anything in between. So just make sure the parameters are stable and you'll probably be okay. Occasionally, swordtails will jump. It doesn't happen often, but I have had it happen. So I'd recommend a lid with swordtails especially. Guppies maybe jump a little less, but any of these fish can jump. So keep that in mind. Breeding is super simple. My favorite way to do it is just have one side of the aquarium that's absolutely choked with Java moss from the bottom to the top. Like this tank here. These are Xiphophorus maculatus, the Catemaco Livebearer, and these are a species of swordtail, platy type fish. And if you see over here on this right-hand corner, on this side here, bunch of Java moss. And then there's also some water sprite and other plants in here. In that dense Java moss, once the mother gives birth, the babies can swim over there, and look at the survival rate. Look at all these little guys. There are so many. And I didn't lift a finger. I just put a big clump of Java moss in there, and I feed baby brine shrimp once a day so the babies can get plenty of that. But I don't even do that all the time. Sometimes I just feed the normal pellets and flakes and things, and live bearer babies are generally well developed enough that if you just take some flake and like squish it up at the top or whatever, and they have plenty of place to hide, they'll usually raise up and be just fine. Now, maybe you have some fish that are very good at hunting down their babies, or some babies that are very bad at hiding. Albino guppy strains, I think, are some of the hardest to breed and raise. In that case, you might want to do a breeding trap. There's many on the market. You can take the female out when she's ready to give birth, put her in a little breeding container, and those are set up with slots and other things to make it so that the female can't get to the babies. The difficult part of that is that the water parameters in those little breeding traps, even if it's just a breeding net that's suspended in the aquarium, can vary quite drastically from the water parameters in the aquarium itself, because there's a lot less water flow through those containers. Even the nets, you'll see after a few days, often the mesh gets kind of clogged up, and if the water flow slows down enough, then you can get a pretty toxic environment in that little container, even though the tank that it's sitting in has a very clean, perfectly fine environment. So just a word of caution. I discovered that the hard way years ago, and I'd like to prevent you from discovering that the hard way as well. Anyways, I think these live bears are amazing. I'm really enjoying them, and I'm just thrilled that after years of trying to find a healthy source for fancy guppies and platies and mollies and swordtails, that I think we've finally been able to figure this out. So if that's something you've been looking for, but you're like, hey, I gave up a while ago, I've been buying guppies, but they're all dying, or I've tried this and they're all dying, I feel for you. I've experienced that as well. I don't know what happened. Live bears used to be some of the hardiest fish ever in the hobby, but somewhere over the past decade or two, that's changed. So I think we figured it out, though. I think we can get you some really good stuff. Hey everyone, it's Dan. If you want to learn more about aquarium fish, we do a live stream every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Dan's Fish YouTube channel. If you're in the market for aquarium fish, check us out at dansfish.com. We ship to the US and parts of Canada. And if you want something fishy to wear, we've got merch. Till next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.